Okay, enough of me. Go, Joe. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. So yeah, so welcome everyone. My name's Joe Simpson. I'm the organizer for the Elementor Santa Clarita Valley Meetup. And those that have been along for the ride know, but I'll do a short intro. I work at Metro in Los Angeles, and about a year ago, like Gary mentioned, he did a 6-month study of the page builder to sort of hone in on Elementor. We were faced with comparing the 3 page builders in the office as part of an overall effort on my part to convince our agency to switch from a non-WordPress site into a WordPress environment. And last year, well, actually 2 years back, I went to WordCamp US, and in the back, one of the coolest displays was an Elementor display. And I walked up to him because I was telling folks about our upcoming WordCamp in Santa Clarita. It was our first one. And I said, hey, I'm a big fan of Elementor. You know, I used to be a designer, and I love the way it sort of reminds me of Adobe Cloud tools and how clean and efficient it is. Like if you use the other page builders, for instance, like Divi is colorful and just big and all is garish in my opinion. I just like a tool that's like in the background. It's like a pencil. I just pick it up and use it. I don't need to like look at it. And I said, I'm a big fan. And they said, hey, you know what? We're thinking of doing meetups in the States. Are you interested? And like Ben Hines was there. Like if you watch any of the Elementor video, he's one of the big educators. Verdi was there. The owner of the company was there. And I took up a meetup in January of the following year. So I wanted to do that too, because I wanted to stay close and keep an eye on what they were doing in terms of updates and things of that nature. So as a leader, what I like about Elementor is that they have an incredibly fast-paced update cycle. Like they're always integrating new features. It can be a curse as well. You could feel like you learn something and they immediately go to something else kind of thing. But I feel like none of the other plugins are updating as frequently or in such a hot cycle. So I like that about them. And last week they asked me to join them at WordPress Live. They had a sponsor tent. So it's allowing me to learn more about Elementor, which is what the purpose of this meetup is. And last year, we compared the 3, Divi, Elementor, and Beaver Builder for a specific project in our office. And I came to the conclusion that Elementor is a great tool. So that's why I'm here before you today. And today I'm going to share a little bit about a project that we're working on. We were comparing calendar tools for a project that we're doing between now and April. And I wanted to find out, a lot of times you grab a plugin or something and it looks ugly and you're like, do I need to do CSS or does that prevent it? And I wanted to find out if any of the page builders worked with the calendar tool. So with that in mind, I'm gonna start the meeting. That's sort of teeing up what we're gonna talk about today. And the first part of the meeting earlier was just an overview of the 3 tools and some of the criteria that we had for the calendar tool and some of the things that were helping us make a decision. So can everyone see my screen? I'm showing you right now the Elementor blog, and these are the latest news and notes on the tool. So I would suggest checking that out if you're interested. One of the things that was interesting in the last release of Elementor, and as you know, most of the page builders aren't as accessible as they should be, but they did make a mention of something they're doing in terms of accessibility. So another reason why I joined the community too was to have an influence on the tool in that way. So I'm hoping that they'll listen to suggestions on accessibility. There's a couple other people in Elementor that are interested in doing that. So that's an exciting part of it too. All right, so this is a great tool, and this link will be in, I'll put it in the chat, but it's also going to be in my slides, which I'll share on our Meetup page as well as on our social media platforms as well. So yeah, so let me jump into these slides really quickly. All right. All right, so our meetups are generally 1 to 2 hours. I think today's is going to be around an hour. We always try to keep it friendly in the spirit of the WordPress 5 good faith rules. We're not here to shout someone down or prove that we're smarter than everyone. We're just here to share and learn. So we try to keep it friendly as possible. Please mute your mic if you're not speaking when someone's presenting. I may mute you if there's some, sometimes a dog will bark in the background or something like that. But generally, we're fine there. And then we're going to record this session. So if you have concerns with that, let me know. We talked a little about your Elementor stories during our introductions. I told you a little bit about mine. I'm always interested in finding out what everyone's skill level is. And like I said, I'm learning along with you. So we're all sort of progressing at the same time. I'm going to do a presentation today on calendar tools and how you can use Elementor to make some customizations on that. And then we'll have an open, if time permits, we'll have an open discussion and we can sort of answer some questions in general. I love to share news and notes about what's coming up in Elementor. And again, the blog is a great place to find out what's going on as well. And then we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up in the next month. Again, here's the URL for the blog. It's a great resource of the latest on Elementor. It also has a lot of great tutorials or links to their YouTube channel, which is incredible. They have an incredible library of tutorials. So if you're looking to learn, that's a great place as well. They also have Elementor meetups, just like you can search for WordPress meetups. There's this link here will take you to a page that lists all the Elementor communities around the world. And again, I try to focus on beginner level topics and hands-on demonstrations. But if you're more advanced or if you want to learn something specific, the great thing about being virtual now is that you can sign up for a meetup anywhere in the world if you're willing to get up or stay up late. So it's a great learning resource now that we're in a virtual space. If you have Elementor Pro, you get an additional item in your dashboard. We all, and I always talk about the WordPress events and news tab, which is part of the core since a couple of versions back. And that gives you the latest on what's going on in WordPress. But if you have Elementor Pro, what you see here is their news tab. So I like their news tab because it lists a lot of things that are on the blog, but it also has links to a lot of tutorials. So a great bit of news that's on this screen here is that one thing that bugged me, and I'm in a corporate environment, I work in an enterprise setting, and and just in general, in terms of WordPress, I just by a show of hands, how many folks edit their sites live? Meaning, if you make changes, you make it directly on the site. If you add a new plugin, you do it directly on the live site. How many people do that as opposed to doing the staging site to test out new features? Go ahead, unmute and then jump in and give me your answers.
Joe, when I'm working on an enterprise site, we're doing everything staged. We're and we've used WP Engine or is it Pantheon, depending on where the enterprise is going to host their site. But yeah, no cowboy coding on enterprise level sites. Awesome. No.
And for me, Joe, we do either or, so it depends. If it's a big site with a lot of traffic, then obviously we build everything somewhere else on a staging site. But if it's just like a couple of pages they want me to work on, sometimes I'll work live. If I know 100% what I'm doing and how it's going to look, then no problem. But if it's something that I want them to see in advance, I'll just create a test page on that website where nobody else has the link, let them see it, and then move it over.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and ditto to that.
Awesome. Anyone else? Because one of my pet peeves, and again, this is how fast the cycle is. Elementor now, their license includes staging sites. So that used to drive me crazy. Like we had a three, again, we were testing these things at the office. So we don't have a large budget. We're a public agency. And I had a 3-user license and I couldn't do a staging server to demonstrate anything because that was considered an extra license. So now it looks like they include staging sites that don't count towards your license. So that's a great bit of news. And then it also has, general things on like redirects for URLs, which again, we're dealing with that as we're migrating off of a non-WordPress site to Metro, Metro's new WordPress instance. So how to migrate your URLs properly, making sure that you don't kill yourself in SEO and things like that. So that was a great article also. So it's a good place. Again, if you have Pro installed, you get that news tab from Elementor added. Oops. Oh. Right. I always try to add some links and resources as well. These are the actual links to the page that we just saw. So again, if you pick up this slide deck later, you'll be able to jump in directly. There was a support on update on support, which I know from time to time we have to reach out to Elementor, so that may be of value to you as well. All right, so let's get into today's topic. Before I jump in, did anybody have any questions or comments? All right, okay. Ooh, let me jump off. All right, I'm gonna stop the share and switch to another tab. And again, everything's all over the place because I used all these tabs earlier today, and it was a close, both meetups were close together, so I apologize. All right, so can everyone see, it should say add-ons and show you the interface from inside Modern Events Calendar on my staging site. All right, so we installed the two most downloaded calendar tools, which are the Events Calendar and Modern Events Calendar. And we also tested WP Calendar by Joe Dolson because that one's accessible out of the box. It's a lot less in terms of features. It's not as full featured. And for what we needed to do, we needed to, and again, I went through some of the criteria last hour, but I'll briefly go through. We needed something that we can implement quickly. To give you sort of some visual imagery to what we're doing, you know, in technology, they always assign names for things. So our current site is like the Titanic. We consider it like a damaged ship and it's about to sink. It's old technology. It's not really functioning right. It has a terrible CMS. It has a terrible end user experience. We don't have any editors using it because it's crappy. So we came up with the concept of the lifeboat. The lifeboat is a WordPress test pilot. So we're building out two of the sections on our website in WordPress, and I'm responsible for our art department. And on our site currently, we have a number of different, and let me see if I'll show you some. We have a number of different calendars, and calendars are basically glorified lists. So we have a number of different instances where we have lists. So let me see if I could pull up some, and you could see my screen, yeah? I'm putting in, all right. So this is our current site. And I had a term that I use for our other developer. I'm not gonna get into that. So for instance, we have a calendar of, we're a government agency, so we have legally mandated timeframes when we have to get up information. We have to get it up within 72 hours of the event. It has to be listed in certain places, it has to be posted. So this is a high in terms of, so this is a calendar. And again, this is what came out of the box and in our former CMS. And the problem is that we had no ability to make change. So this table looks terrible. It's supposed to be a striped table. And we would have to put in a change order with our vendor who was charging us excuse my French, a boatload of money to make even the simplest changes, which we should probably be able to do ourselves. So this was one list, and another department, let me find another one. Just to give you an idea of the different types of quote unquote calendars that we have. And so this featured news list is a calendar of sorts. Our art department, we have art installations all throughout our system. We have a docent program that takes people on tours. We have, it's like a museum. You could get an audio tour of the system. So it's a full-blown art program. And so they have a need for a calendar. But again, this is more of, it's sort of like almost card-like or magazine style-like. So we have this calendar. So we have a number of different visual representations that we need around our website. So our challenge is, and you know, when you install a plugin or a theme, a lot of times it's not perfect, and we always have to change something in the header or move something around or change the colors. And for those of us that are familiar with the customizer, or if we want to, sometimes plugins or themes make it really difficult to make changes. Like WB Breakery, as some folks lovingly refer to it, can make things difficult. I know I worked on a client site maybe a year ago, and he wanted to add Google Analytics, a basic code snippet to the head of his website. And in WB Bakery, it was impossible with the theme that he had. So one of the benefits of using these tools and using modern tools is the ability to make a lot of these changes and being able to customize. So I wanted to find out if Elementor or one of the other page builders could do this. And my investigation that I wanted to sort of show you today was with Elementor. And what you see here is we purchased, and again, one of the things that I enjoy about these meetups is that I'm from a corporate environment, an enterprise environment. So we approach things in a different way. I always joke that we have meetings to have meetings about a planning meeting to talk about a meeting. So there's so much bureaucracy and things that we have to go through just to get a project through. So what I'm showing you today is sort of the presentation I'm going to give to them, and sort of the logic that we used in going ahead and choosing something. And so in terms of, and I was mentioning before, and welcome Tommy, by the way, I mentioned before that we needed something that we needed to implement quick in the lifeboat. So this lifeboat is going to sell in 4 months. And what we've done to our department clients, like one of the problems that we had with the old outdated legacy site is that it's been around forever, and it's got 1,200 pages. Many of them no one looks at. There's like a group of 50 pages where everyone views, but since it's a political organization, some people feel like their information is important even though it's not. So we said, we need to archive all this stuff. We need to make the site more usable for our customers who ride the system. So we're giving you an ultimatum. We need you to do your site this way, more modern philosophy and technique, or you're gonna be archived on the sinking ship. So April is when we're gonna launch these pilots. And so we have a hot deadline. Another thing that we needed to consider was it needs to integrate with a lot of the major services. As a large agency, a lot of folks have their own tools already. Someone uses Trumbo, which is a browser-based calendar tool. Some people use Google Calendar. Some people use Meetup. Some people use Eventbrite. So we needed to make sure that these tools integrated with them. Another thing that we needed, again, was the ability to customize. We have a distinct brand at Metro.net, and Metro in general, we have an award-winning design studio. So they're pixel perfect designers, and they want the fonts to look a certain way. We have a color palette. We have a whole look and feel in terms of a UI toolkit. So that's important, the ability to control that. So that led me to what we're talking about today. It would be nice if someone had my design mind and could create a calendar that looked exactly how we want it. But as you all know, it ends up like the lead designer at their company wants. So one thing that I don't like about modern events calendar, as you can see here, they love light blue and they love drop shadow. So that drives me crazy. So part of my effort here was to see if I can get rid of a lot of that stuff. So before I go ahead, any other questions before we jump in? So these are some of, and one thing you'll find also in terms of calendars, for those that are new to calendars. Okay, go ahead, Sally.
And I'm sorry, and it's based on just accessibility because it is here to stay, kind of. Mm-hmm. With the shadow box and that colors, because you're a government agency, so your site has to be accessible, right?
Yes. We follow Section 508 guidelines, which is just as strict as WCAG. Like
so those shadow boxes are okay?
No. I mean, just in general, in terms of graphics,
yeah,
I think they're like 1970 design, so I hate them. So,
thank you.
Yeah. So just, and then also in terms of the colors, like the color contrast, it's like a light blue and a white, so that's not accessible at all. So we need the ability to edit those things. So what we did, we bought a license for Modern Events Calendar Pro and the Events Calendar. And the one hook, or the one thing that's I would urge you to be careful of, and it's unfortunate, but this is how they get you. It's also with a theme, for example, like you download Astra, for example, and you install it. and you find out the templates that you want are in the Pro package. So they'll get you to update that way. So what these calendar tools will do is that they'll have a nice base to get your calendar up and running. But for us, for example, we wanted to integrate it with Meetup or something like that, and that may require an add-on. So their extensions or their plugins are called add-ons, and that can add to the price of the product as well. So what I did here was there's a bundle that Modern Events Calendar had that works specifically with Elementor. So as part of the test, I got that as well. So these 4 items, the short code builder, the form builder, the single builder, and the Elementor short code designer, give you the Elementor interface with the end result being a Modern Events Calendar layout that you can use. It also has a Divi single builder. And again, we won't mention Divi, but these are all things that they recommend you get, as well as they have a add-on library. But for the purposes of this demo, I used these 4. And I think I'm going to show you specifically how the single builder works. All right. So I'll show you an example of event. So for example, on Metro.net, in our system, I think this is on our buses, they have car cards that have art. We commission artists to write poetry or do art that people can read during the course of their commute to sort of lift their spirits. And I guess this particular statement called Silver Lining was about, it talked about the pandemic and promoting, highlighting uplifting messages. So they commissioned a number of artists to come up with artwork that would be printed. And each of these car cards will be up in our system over a period of time. So this is technically an event, and I'm going to show you how we would add something like that to Modern Events Calendar, and then we're going to try to customize the template. Hey, Courtney, how are you? Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself before I jump in? I've seen you around before. Tell everybody about yourself, your connection to Elementor, what you want to learn today, or just in general, anything you want us to know. Oh, we can't hear you. Nope, still can't hear you. Okay, we'll come back. We'll come back to you. But thanks for joining us. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'll save this image down, and I'm just doing it on the fly. And if I do anything, oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah. So I'm just I'm relatively new, but I'm building some stuff for my startup company that we're launching. And so using Elementor WordPress platform. So I'm just here to learn whatever I can continue to learn.
Okay. What kind of things are you doing on your site? Is it the entire site? Are you redoing a certain part, or is it a rebuild, a redesign, or are you building out something?
Well, it's an entire site. Well, actually it's 2 sites. So the first one is a crowdfunding platform. And then the second one is a site that's going to be using the crowdfunding platform to kind of reach out with positivity and all this great stuff that's happening, working with a really great community.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Okay. So, so I downloaded the image by right-clicking. For those that may not know, I use the inspector, or you can right-click and save the image this way. I save that down. I'm going to copy out. And again, your process may be different. You may get this information from one of your editors, or you want to create a process where they can input the information themselves. And that's one of our requirements as well. Currently, there's no system for our department contributors to use our CMS. Our CMS is crappy currently. They have no way of adding events or using our CMS because it's very difficult to use. So we need an easy to use end user interface. And I'm going to show you Modern Events Calendar has the ability to create a browser-based input form. And I did that for this, and some of the folks that were in our previous one have probably seen it already. But anyway, so let me copy this text, and then we'll create a new event. Oops. Let me just, I'm gonna. Just do some basic styling. All right, and then the great thing about these tools also is that it can create a category or a tagging system or a taxonomy where you create enough of these, you'll be able to surface those later. So for example, if we have a number of different events that are tied to locations, we can, you know, it could theoretically be metro.net/art/location, and then it would list that entire series of events, and you could populate that on a page, or you can do a short code and populate just the artist information on another page, which is another requirement for us. We have a number of different calendars throughout our site currently, but they're not connected. They're all in different admins on this one CMS, so they don't talk to each other. The data is totally separate. So we need an agency calendar, but then we also need the art department to have their calendar, procurement to have their calendar, construction to have their calendar. And we want it all to be focused in one area. So consolidating all that information in one calendar is a big part of what we're doing also. All right, so one thing I would always suggest, again, give it categories and tags so that you can filter things later in the process. And again, you need to think a lot of this stuff at the beginning when you're planning out your site, how it's going to be organized. Fortunately, our art department has been around forever, so they really organize things based on the artist, based on the location, whether it's a train station or a building, or the type of project, like is it a poster, is it a statue, etc. So we have these set categories already. Then you have the ability also to flag it with the color. This is a modern events thing. And for me, we're just gonna go ahead and put in an image. I'm gonna upload the image that I just downloaded. I'll give it a tag, mural containing. And again, it's always important to give your images an alt tag for accessibility purposes. And one of the nice things about WordPress is that now in the back end, in your media library, it gives you sort of some guidance on determining whether your image is a background image and whether you need to add an alt tag, which is a new feature, which is nice also. And you set your featured image. And again, I would suggest, if possible, let your artist know, or let whoever providing this information, your calendar information, know that try to keep your images in a similar format. I think in the events calendar, it asks for it to be 16:9, which is slide proportions, which also, when they go down to 1024, is social media friendly. So again, you're thinking that this feature image is going to travel with this document. And one great thing about this tool, Modern Events Calendar, as opposed to the Events Calendar, is Modern Events Calendar has SEO schema built in. So that means in the Events Calendar, for example, if you do a repeating event, you create it once and you say it's going to happen every third Thursday throughout 2021. It creates 12 instances of that calendar event, but a search engine like Google sees that as one event, because it has no distinguishing factor or no distinguishing SEO information with those events when it was created in the events calendar. But Modern Events Calendar has a schema built in. So that's a nice feature also. So with that in mind, when you create these events, if you give it a featured image, one of the nice things about WordPress is that when you share it on social media or when it's found in a search engine, that featured image goes along with your excerpt or your title information. And so it gives people a visual representation of what they're going to get. Because a lot of times when I'm looking at something on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, the image is what entices me to click a lot of times. So again, that's all built into WordPress, and it's one of the nice things about WordPress. All right, so we added a featured image. I have Yoast SEO, which you don't really need to pay attention to, but over in the left, there's also some additional information. So right below your CMS, you'll have your events details. for Modern Events Calendar. It's your starting date and time. This event goes from December. It's an all-day event, and it ends in July. And one of the cool things about these tools too, it has a lot of control over what's displayed on the back end. In your settings, you could say, hey, you know, like in Europe, they do the year first, and you know, they do their time and dates different. So you have the ability to organize that. You have the ability to control the fonts and things of that nature. So again, that's a little bit more than we're going to talk about today, but you can add a countdown, which is part of Modern Events Calendar, which I have no use for. You can add that as well. And then also you can control the visibility. You also have, again, you have the SEO information, cost. And so again, you could add all this stuff at the time you create your event. So for instance, if we wanted people to come to metro.net and get that additional information on that particular event, we can put it in here. The venue, you can add a new location, metro. And if you connect it with Google Maps, and there's an API for both the events calendar and Modern Events Calendar, if you connect it, it'll give you a Google map, but I think it has a standard map that's not Google Map as well. And you could even put in your latitude and longitude. All right. And then if you even wanted to use an image for your map, you could do that as well. Or in the case when we've gone virtual, you wouldn't need a map. So you can click that to turn that off. You can also schedule when you wanted this event to show in the calendar. It's just a lot of control. Even if you had a repeating event, like for instance, if it's every third Thursday or things like that, you can control that in the event repeating section. So we're good to go here. You can treat this like a standard post. One thing that I'm going to have to work on with our Metro Art folks is writing more efficiently for the web. Like they use a lot of words, and like for a calendar event, you don't need a lot of information. You can have them go to the actual page to get more information. So they write a little bit too much. So you have the ability to do all that here. One feature that we also wanted, we use ActiveCampaign for our email marketing. So we wanted to have the ability for that to integrate. So there is an API that we connected here as well. So all of the people that sign up for these events, but we don't sell tickets for them. But if people signed up for them, like for instance, our procurement group, they work with small businesses, local businesses, and their vendors on providing education and information about our programs. So they actually need to RSVP for events or required events. So there would need to be a ticket for those kind of things. So again, this tool has the ability to have it or to not have it. So so after I go in and add all this information, you can add media. Again, it's treated just like a standard post. And let's just go ahead and publish. All right, let's just take a quick look at the post. All right. So this is, I did a sample of a custom template earlier, but let's go in and create one from scratch using Elementor. So let me see if I can, I'll try to pull up a sample of Modern Events Calendar out of the box without any customization, so you could see the difference. Did we have any questions as I work along here?
I had a question.
Sure.
I noticed when you pulled in the information, you didn't have a title to your post.
Ooh.
When you were setting it up,
Okay,
if you were to go back to the event.
Oh, I don't have a title.
Oh, was that just a?
That was a mistake. That's why it,
Okay.
and I was wondering why it didn't have a custom.
Okay, because I thought maybe you had set up something where it's going to pull it from somewhere. You know,
No,
there's
and
magic things that could be programmed. Okay.
That's just demonstrating live. I just missed it. So
I hear you. I was live with a client the other day and nothing worked. And I kept saying, oh, that's what I get for trying to do this
and then
on the fly.
And then you may know once you it creates a URL for you automatically. You can always go back in and change it.
Yes.
So
you're going to change the slug.
yeah. So I usually.
So let me ask you too, would you guys ever do a database of each of the artists as well? Or is that what this is the event? But if you had, you said that they're typing too much in for the event. So I'm trying to remember the plugin we've used with the agency I work with, but like they basically, put in a bio and a picture for everyone that works for the company.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can go back.
And I was gonna say, I think that's part of what we're gonna do. I know, a calendar is considered a custom post type for those that may or may not know. Custom post type is a way of organizing information that you feel should be separate from the overall database. So these events are their own custom post type. So we just need to make sure that what we do for the standard Metro Art site, which catalogs all the information for our art program, can still talk with these tags. So that's just part of what we sort of have to do. So let me see if I can show you the original format of modern events calendar out of the box, so that I'll show you, we'll do something custom with Elementor. All right, let's see here. Okay, so this is, I have a number of different sandboxes, as if you can't tell, but this one is one of our How to Do Business with Metro workshops. It has a featured image, some basic information. So as you can see, it has the date and location information here on the side. It has a register button, which we don't need. And one of the things I found when I was looking around or digging around, I was like, how do I get rid of it? I couldn't figure out how to turn off the register button. So with the Elementor tool, or with some of these custom add-ons that we're using, I'm going to try to create a layout that doesn't contain that. So yeah, so you can see it also has the add to Google Calendar, the iCal, it has a countdown. So all these things we don't want, or I don't want. Again, we're a public agency, so that's just the countdown and all that stuff is just overdoing it. But it's good to have all the bells and whistles in case you need them. So keep this in mind, and then we're going to come over and take a look at creating something from scratch. So once you get this plugin bundle, you'll have the events single builder. I'm going to delete what we just saw because that was actually a custom page that I created this morning. All right, so let's go ahead and create something new. And then we'll call it Metro Art Exhibit. All right, so let's go ahead and edit that with Elementor. And again, this plugin is basically allowing us to create a template. But the awesome thing is now if you take a look at the Elementor control panel here, it created a whole new set of tools on top of Elementor's basic set. So if you want me to make, I don't know if I need to make the screen bigger. Can you see? Or yeah, so in the left here, it says MEC Single Builder. And now it has a series of items that are tied to, uh-oh, I can't hear you, Shannon.
Oh, I was just like jaw dropping because this is so cool. That's
Okay.
all. I didn't actually say anything. I was like,
okay, I saw your mouth moving, but I didn't hear anything. All right, so for those that, I'm assuming that most people are familiar with the Elementor interface, but I know Sally is new. So basically, Sally, what you're looking at here is a page builder. And one of the rise of page builders, I would say in the last 5 years, they've really taken hold because people want more control over the look and feel of their websites. With the Gutenberg project, it's sort of a response to this movement as well. Gutenberg is now moving into, I think, the third phase or the second phase, which is going to contain full site editing. And at the end of this, the fear is, or what's everyone's talking about is, you're not going to need themes once full editing is going to come about. You're going to be able to build pages within Gutenberg that has the look and feel and the components you want without needing a theme. So before this came to be, a lot of page builders came out because a lot of people were having difficulty working with the traditional theme, creating a child theme, creating templates or custom templates to do exactly what we wanted visually. So all of these page builders came up, Divi, Element, WP Breakery back in the day, but Elementor, Beaver Builder, and Divi sort of addressed that vacuum, and they allowed you to have drag and drop control over what you built. The awesome thing about, and I'm sorry I'm taking a detour, and I'll keep going, so don't worry, I'm not going to cut anything off, but let me show you one thing. Oh no, I'll come to it later. But Sally, one thing about the page builders also is Elementor just came out with basically a blank theme called Hello, which is supposed to be one of the fastest themes, and it's really a blank canvas. So you can build exactly the pages you need for your client. For instance, when you get a WordPress theme, you'll get an archive page, a post page, and a set number of templates that you could use that look like the presentation that they give you on the repository on the theme detail page. So moving back to Elementor and these page builders, you have the ability to drag and drop onto a page, or if you click on the folder, you can see a library of templates that are already built. And what they've tried to do is, for instance, if you have a beauty salon, you can select the beauty salon set. So it has an about page, a home page. And so you've already got a look and feel, and you just have to swap out your information, which is great. Or if you want, you can create your, and what I'm doing at Metro is we're creating a component library based on our brand. And so we'll be able to drag and drop and it'll look exactly the way we want. Or it has preset blocks that you can use. For instance, if you have a certain footer that you like, or if you have a certain body of a page that you like, or a certain header, you can drag and drop those. And what you notice too in this backend is some of them have the Pro flag on them. That means that you have to have Elementor Pro to use those, or they have some that are free. So it does give you some basics, but you'll find that you'll probably need to get a license for Pro if you want to do a little bit more, or have some of the free stuff. But if you use Hello and some of the basics, you can get around as well. So, and then you can also save and export a lot of your designs. So for instance, if you come up with an accessible theme or design that you build for your client, you can export those, and you could package your own theme, and you could just move that to your next client if that's the case. So you can build a whole set of things on your own. All right, so we're back in the page. We have the MEC page builder. So again, if we take a look back at what comes out of the box, it has a certain layout. The feature image is on the left with the copy. It has a sidebar. And to me, modern websites don't really have sidebars anymore. So I don't want to do a sidebar. So I want to design something on my own. And I want to lay out things a little differently. So I want to get away from this. And the single builder allows me to do that. So again, clicking on the red plus gives you your structure that you could start with. I'm going to start here. And then as you add things in, you can begin to populate. So I want to start it to have the look and feel of our current site. I want to drop that in. A great thing about MEC Builder, it also has a breadcrumb, which is good for SEO. So I'm going to find that. And again, you can go in. Each page builder has a similar interface where it has boxes that are nested within other boxes, and each box has a different set of controls. So for instance, this particular item, if I click on that pencil, I can go in and zero out some of the padding. I can go in with the heading and do the same thing. Then I'm going to go back. I want to use a feature image. So again, I want a more centered approach. You can come here.
I got a real quick question for you.
Yes.
Because I'm seeing something. I'm like, oh, that's how it works.
Okay.
So from your tool, the Modern Events Calendar, that's a plugin or a theme or a tool. What is that?
It's a plugin.
It's a plugin. And then what you're doing is, so you've configured it over there, and then it's feeding into, or you're accessing what you set up over there inside of Elementor here.
Well, it's a little bit of both. The Modern Events Calendar is its own,
Right.
consider its own set of functionality that's adding to WordPress. It's adding calendar features. But I don't know if it was Elementor or they worked with Elementor, but Elementor came up with a bundle. And I think the bundle is $99 for 5 plugins that plug into Modern Events Calendar to give you what you're looking at here.
I see.
Yeah, so I think it's Modern Events Calendar is $79, and I think the bundle is $99. So I think it's like $170, and you get this functionality. There are free plugins that do something similar, but probably not as much control. I didn't get a chance to test out both of those, but I could probably do a follow-up for the free tools next time.
Right.
But again, because this was a hot deadline,
Yeah.
I wanted to get something that we can get up fast. And I'll show you another reason why we did it too. But as you can see, you have a lot of control. You get a lot of the control that you have in the typical Elementor environment in terms of your screens. You don't have as many. And again, I guess this information is controlled more on a higher level in terms of the styles. But for instance, so like I said, you can control how the image shows.
Yeah.
You can, like, what if I wanted the borders rounded? I mean, you can do all that from within this panel. We can go back. You have other features again. And again, like I mentioned, Sally, you can drag and drop onto the page and keep adding to your page. So what I want to do now, I want to continue to build out the page. And like I said, now that the layout's already different from what we had over here on our standard page. So next thing I want to do is I want to group, like, to me, it's important, but all this information, if it's on a calendar and people click through to this event detail page, they already know the date and time for the event, but I do need to reiterate it. So it doesn't need to be at the very top, in my opinion, on the detail page. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a 3-column, zero that out. And again, I'm doing it in a quick manner, but you can, when you set up your site, you can create all of these globally. So your margins and everything will be already put in, but I'm doing it on the fly. So, all right, so we're gonna get the date, drop that in. And I'm gonna get the time. And we'll get more info. And again, these are things that are on the other page, but like I said, I don't need the event cost or any of those other things. What else did I need? Oh, an event location. Let me put that one here. I'm gonna move this below. I don't like how that looks. And then I think, what else we want? We want the event content. That's kind of important. So I'm going to add that in. And see, the awesome thing is that it pulls, like, since we created that page already, it pulls, I would say, create a couple of sample calendar items before you do this so that you can see live content on the page as you drag and drop. So yeah, so we've just added the entry content. And what else do we need? And again, you could look through all of these different things. If you have, like, a lot of times when you do an event, you may have a speaker or something like that. You can drop in all of that added information. And again, back in that admin where we added the information, you would add all that information there and it would show. And I think the only other thing, like, we use QR codes at Metro. So on our printed material, we use a QR code. You can add one of those in. And you can also, and you would have to set up one on the other end. And we can do social media. All right. And then you have some ability to control what you see here, but it's, again, it's a few things. All right. So I think that's all I want. And again, I didn't need a a register button or anything like that. We have a breadcrumb, which will take us back to our main events page, which is good. And then we just want to publish it. Okay, and then on the back end, let's just go back to our dashboard. And there's one other thing in Modern Events Calendar, in the settings, you need to make sure and point to that new template. So under a single event, and this is added when you install the plugin, and it looks like it already added it for us automatically. You have the ability also in these tabs to enable or disable things. You have some styling options. If you want to do your own CSS, you can import, export. One of the things I enjoy about some of these tools is also you can go in, again, you can see we have an active campaign account, so we've linked it to that. You can specify how the search bar is, and you can just pick up this short code and paste it on the page, and then you have the calendar search on that page in particular. You can specify how you want the search bar fields to look. So you have a lot of control over it. So let's go ahead and save those changes. And again, this is the standard template. And here's time. This is time for the big payoff. So let's see how our event looks now with the new template. All right, let's take a view. All right, so now, and then I probably don't want the comments, so I'll turn that off. Hold on a sec. So there you have it. So it allows you to, like I said, it allows you to do custom parts of your calendar. So I like that. And again, I'm going to keep testing it. I did a couple of quick tests. Like I think we got this tool on Thursday, so I've been playing around with it since. But again, that's kind of important for us to be able to customize it. And again, with any tool that you get, it's never perfect. You know, you may want the menu to be underneath this, or you want to move this over there. And to me, when you can find a tool that will allow you to do it, that's kind of important. So, so yeah, what else can I show you? Or are there any other questions on what I just did? All right.
No, this is great, Joe. Thanks. I mean, I've worked on, I can't say the name of the other one website with a W for my client. And then just a lot of these meetups, it's getting easier and easier with just like, you know.
Oh, what's a W? What's a W? What do you mean?
Oh, you know, the bad W 3-letter word.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, Wix, you mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was told when I first got into the WordPress community never to say that word.
Well, I mean,
You're right.
Yeah. So, but no, this is really simple. I'm glad I'm learning websites now and not like 10 years ago.
yeah. And that's the cool thing. And I told a story in the first hour about the client for this particular project. And I call it the art boat because it's part of the lifeboat, but its own thing. And she's dealt with this antiquated site for a few years, and the site's been around for 12 years. And she was like, can you get a slider? Can we do a complex menu with more than 4 items? And I was laughing because I was like, you haven't been involved in WordPress, or you have no idea what WordPress can do, because all that stuff is basically in all of these tools. You just have to find it. And one other word of caution is, as you can see, Modern Events Calendar is it has lots and lots to it. It can be overwhelming if you let it. So there's millions of, it's sort of like Google. If you start searching or clicking on things in Twitter or Facebook, you'll end up somewhere, 30 minutes later. So you do have to be careful about that. Also, let me show you another thing that I liked about this one. Let me see if I can pull up.
And Joe, while you're looking, you brought up sliders on another WordCamp earlier this week. They said sliders are like passé now.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And, and I'm going to try to talk her out of it. But yeah, in terms of like, now you want your pages to, Google ranks you higher the faster your site loads. Most people are looking at your website on this. And, you know, we build our sites on a desktop and we assume that everyone looks at our site on desktop. But if you look at young folks and people that are buying, they're doing everything here. So your form needs to work this small and it has to be usable this small. A lot of times, like a slider takes up 80 to 90 to 100% of your screen. So all of the critical information is pushed off the screen. And we know just a lot of the initial data, most people don't stick on your site more than 3 seconds if they don't see what they want right away. So if it doesn't load fast or if they don't see your information fast, they're going to bounce. So I always recommend to stay away from those kind of things. In this case, it's an art site, so it's a visual thing. So we'll probably have to add those, but generally, and our team has instructed the art folks to really try to write for the web, slim down these pages, all this information. And again, another part of it, which I'm going to talk about in some of our meetups, is about user experience. How many of us, or just a show of hands, how many folks test their pages with other people using them and monitor those kind of tests? All right, Courtney, tell me about what you do, and Greg, tell me about what you do while I'm looking up this page.
Oh, if I understood you correctly, I mean, yeah, when I build a new page with certain functionality for a customer, I'll drop the coming soon page and have them get it and give it a test drive and make sure it meets their expectations. And if they like it, then I publish it. Awesome. And if they don't, then I go back to the drawing board. Did that answer your question?
Yes, that's sort of what I'm getting at, because I think most people design it to their taste, and they feel like if I like it, then the world will like it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, Courtney, what about you?
Well, I have a team, so what I do is I create a test plan, and then we have all different types of testing. And so that would fall under, you know, the performance testing, regression testing, design testing, optimization testing, negative testing, before obviously it's rolled out. So
awesome. Yeah, it's so important. Like, how many of us have gotten into a rental car and had to figure out how to turn the radio on or where everything was at? Like, each car company does things differently, or it drives me crazy. Like these remotes, I have a remote to this monitor here, and each remote is different. So if you're trying to turn the TV on and it's dark, it drives you crazy if the buttons don't light. So just most companies don't do the basic user testing to find out what people do. What I'm going to do with this art project is I'm going to say list 7 things that you expect the customer to do, or the end user, in our case, our transit customers, to do when they come to the art site. Find an artist, find out where it's at, find out where they could see it, et cetera, and then have somebody do those things. We're going to have strangers come in and say, find artist Isabel Dorinda, and have them find it on our site. And what you'll find is that people find things in ways that you never thought, or people get lost easily. And if you don't do that kind of user testing, you're really not setting the customer up or your client up to succeed. So anyway, before I go off on a tangent here. All right, and thanks for sharing that. And everybody can see this is the Modern Events Calendars feature page. And again, I'm just focusing on Modern Events Calendar today because I don't think the Events Calendar has an Elementor plugin or way to work with Elementor. So again, that was another thing that had me look at this tool in more detail. So this page here lists a lot of, and one of the things they brag about is having all this stuff off the box. Again, it's a curse and a blessing. It's like so many things that you could play around with, but chances are what you need is a part of this tool. So just a basic comparison. And again, the Events Calendar is the most downloaded and probably the most popular calendar tool in the WordPress space. But if you look at all these different features, you can see even the light version has way more things that are out of the box ready versus the modern events, versus Events Calendar. But then when you look at Pro, wow, it's got just about everything. So, and one thing I like at the bottom, before I jump off, Sally, I'm sorry, it gives you the price for getting all these features with that particular tool, it tells you at the bottom. So again, we're enterprise, we're government, we don't have a large budget. So what I'm doing on Thursday, I'm going to say, this is what we need to do these tools. This is how much it's going to cost. One tool was a one-time fee. Modern Events Calendar is a one-time license, lifetime fee. The Events Calendar, you get charged every year. So that's a consideration when we don't have budget. Different features is another primary concern. So all those things went into what I'm showing you today. Yes, Sally?
So with all these choices, you know, I've sat on several of these. Is it the more you use, the more it gets complicated, more problems happen, or are they really interconnected, friendly, or is it better like small is simple, less is simple?
You know, what I found in the last meetup that we had, everyone had a calendar tool that they like to use, and they used it for a very specific reason. Like one person had a music reason. He has his music on SoundCloud, and he wants a way to have people book him. Another person wanted to manage his, he runs a company and he wanted everyone on his team to be able to see when people are available. I don't know if the tool can do that, but every person that has a need for a calendar has a different reason. So the reason why I'm showing you all these features is that you probably want to go about the same process that I did, you know, set up your requirements and set up what you need, and then find the tool that works for you. You might not need this. If you're looking for something accessible, Joe Dolson has a calendar tool, a calendar plugin that's really basic. It's not visually appealing, but if you need something that works out of the box and that's accessible, you can go with that. We need it more in terms of our visual brand. So I look here. One of the great things about this page too is that it shows you they have in terms of the different views for this tool, it has over 50 different calendar views. Some of them are pro, but the majority of them are free. So for instance, timeline view, we have projects, and let me see if I can find it too. We have projects that are under construction. So we wouldn't need to show a calendar in a formal calendar sense, but it would be cool to show the timeline in this sort of timeline structure. So let me see, I did do one. Let me see if I could pull it up for you. It's in, I don't think it was on this one. That's not it. Okay. Hopefully I didn't change it by changing the template, but we'll see. All right. So yeah, so I created one based on the, you know, a proposed history of our project from the groundbreaking through its completion. So this is a great way to display it. So again, we wanted the flexibility to have as many different views out of the box as possible. So again, this is a quick way to see whether these views these views work for you. So again, you may want something that's more like the story format, which you have here, like these with a nice image and an overlay of text. So again, it gives you all these things out of the box. The events calendar, I think, had 7 views out of the box. I don't even know if they allow you to extend the calendar to do more. I guess you could do it with CSS and custom templating, but this had over 50 out of the box. So that was appealing to me also. The last thing I want to show you, and if anyone has a question or comment, go ahead and jump in.
I have a question.
Sure.
Did you get did you find any information about how well it performs in comparison to other calendar plugins? Is it because it has all these features? Is it super, you know, does it slow the site down?
You know, that's the one thing I've been closing my eyes. I'm going to do that test last. I should have did it first. But I'm assuming it's probably not going to be as fast. But I'm hoping that using Hello and Elementor will speed it up a little bit. But I do need to do a speed test because my direct boss, that's one of the things that's important to him. So, so that could be the deciding factor. What I also wanted to show you before we get too far is one of the things we're looking at doing also was allowing our users, our end users, to easily get in and add events to the calendar. So what if they didn't know WordPress or what you're looking at here? We're all familiar with the WordPress admin. So it's easy for us to create a new post or create a new page. But what if the end user at Metro is not tech savvy, and they're really more used to a browser-based thing or something that looks like Outlook. So another cool thing about the Modern Events Calendar is that it allows you to create a front-end submission page. I had to do quite a bit of CSS because they like the sky blue and light blue drop shadow. So I cleaned it up, but this does what we did earlier when we added the one event. So they would come to this page. I put a password on it, so it's protected from the public. So we would provide our end users a password. They would come here, enter the password. They would get this screen, and they could go through and just add an event. And it adds it in the same way. You can add your tags. You can do your feature image. It doesn't look like the WordPress admin. It just looks like a basic form that they would fill out. So again, this is a great way to make the process easier for someone who may have issues using WordPress or freak out when you show them what they have to do in WordPress. All right. So I think that's what I wanted to show you for today. I want to open it up and see if anyone has any additional questions or comments or any experiences they want to share in terms of their calendar experience, or if there's anything I can show you, or if you have a general WordPress question or Elementor question that I could help with.
I have an accessibility question.
Oh, okay.
I noticed on the Metro site that you have blue, your links are blue and underlined. Is that because of the accessibility requirements, or are you just doing that for looks?
Well, it's more for accessibility. I mean, I think the design trend, and you can see it even in the back end here, is that most people don't underline their links anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's terrible usability. So I am proposing underlines on the links. And
Okay.
One of our current UX design for our current site uses Bootstrap. So the blue that you saw is the Bootstrap blue. So
I see.
Yeah.
So thank you, Teresa, for asking the question, because sometimes I bring up accessibility on a non-accessibility meetup and I feel like I'm taking time away. But Joe, do you want to tell her about the course? And if you don't have the link, I could look it up if anyone's interested in learning more to accessibility.
Oh, sure. Yeah, if you want to learn the general basics of accessibility, there's a free course. I think it's free for a few more months at edX. And I think is it 5 modules or 3?
5.
Okay, yeah, it's 5 modules that you go through. It's self-paced learning, and it walks you through the basics of accessibility. And again, it's free, so you get a certificate at the end if you like, and it teaches you the basics of accessibility. Oh. And I talk about these in general at WordPress events or at WordCamps, and I usually focus on beginners because, again, a lot of people that are new to the community may not even know they need to do these kind of things. So I think it's important, and it's an important topic in general because we're all, as we're getting older, our eyesight's getting worse. We may have health issues. We all become, we could be temporarily disabled. Like I broke my ankle, or I had shoulder surgery and I was out of work for a couple months. So you don't really realize the importance of accessibility until it impacts you. I know all of us, for example, in the last year, being forced to stay at home changed everything. A lot of restaurants weren't able to do curbside or take online orders. So many people weren't prepared to have access to their services. And that's not an accessibility issue, it's a usability issue, but a lot of these things are on the back burner. So I always try to show you basic things that everyone should do. You should always check your color contrast. You should always run a quick test in terms of your theme being accessible with Google has a Page Insights plugin that fits in your Chrome browser. You should add alt tags to your images. WordPress out of the box, if you use an accessibility ready theme, gets you on your way to creating an accessible site. It doesn't allow you to use more than one H1 on a page, the modern theme. So there's a lot of little things that I talk about people doing all the time, but this course is another great option to utilize to learn more.
And Joe, sorry, I added in the Google one, the Microsoft one that I learned from Jennifer the other night.
Well, awesome. Okay.
That's free as well. I'm actually starting that this afternoon. And I just gave you the link that takes you directly to the accessibility intro course for EDX, because someone asked, because Joe, you gave just to the main website.
Oh, I know. And then you have to surf through. Okay.
Yeah, so I
awesome.
just gave the direct link. So
Well, thank you so much.
yeah, no, thank you.
Awesome.
I started it last week, and I'm gonna need to check in with you all at the next San Fernando Valley accessibility meetup, just so I have some accountability, because I started it and then forgot about it.
Yeah, so I started EDX. Joe, you started it too, right?
Yeah, I'm on the second module.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm just finished the second, but I think EDX is more about getting an insider view of how users with disabilities use the websites and technology. And so I'm not sure how that differs from the Microsoft one, but I'm going to start the intro one. The first is 2.5 hours this afternoon on Microsoft.
Okay.
I'm kind of stuck at EDX right now, so I'm.
Oh, I know. You need something to bounce it off of. And hopefully this change of pace got you a little more excited about WordPress. So one other thing that I could show you before we take off here. Modern Events Calendar works with short codes, which is a nice feature. In each of the views, you can simply copy this short code and paste it in a new page. Let's do that. I don't think I have enough content in here, but it'll show you at least how it works. You can create a new post or page. All right. And then it gives you that view automatically. So it gave us the tile view. So yeah, so it's really easy. And then you could actually specify, you can edit each view and change it a little bit inside of Modern Events Calendar too. Let me show you that. You can click on edit for the timeline view, and then it brings up different options. So you can customize it a little bit. So for example, if you didn't like the format for your date, month and year, you can change that around. You could have just the year, you can have just the day. You can have it include these different things. So within each view, you have the ability to control it too. So again, like I said, you have choices upon choices upon choices upon choices for everything. And then you go to the bottom and then you have more options. So it can be a lot. But again, I wanted to see all the different options. And for us, we probably want as many views as possible. But again, we need something that's easy to use. So anywho, let me just jump back to the slides and see if I forgot anything and sort of wrap up here. All right. Okay, so let me wrap up here. I won't take up too much more of your time. Everyone can see the screen, yeah? Here are more resources. Yes? Okay, good. So one of the great things about Elementor, again, is that they have an incredible library on YouTube. They've also released like focused tracks on learning. So they could take you from beginning to end on building a site. The ones that are in green colors are series. So those are all great. They also do individual topics. again, this is a course that I just did. It was building a portfolio site. So it talked a little bit about accessing dynamic content, building a homepage, all that using Elementor. And it's with two of their top educators. And the educator in this video actually visited us when we did Los Angeles. I don't know if many people remember last fall's world tour for Elementor, where they did monthly meetups with a lot of the top people at Elementor. So the person that did this came in and talked in Los Angeles and talked about it, pop-ups. All right, here are some calendar resources. Again, these are some of the things that I use for research. It's articles on comparing the two, how to use a themer, the Elementor Single Builder, which we talked about today, and then just a couple of other beginner guides. And then the bottom link is a comparison of the top events calendar plugins. Again, YouTube resources have a great channel. Two of the top non-Elementor voices, like Adam Presser, makes videos all the time, and he has a great set of videos on Elementor. And Daryl Wilson, they're both here locally, and I've met them previously. The great thing about the YouTube channel on Elementor is that they have a lot of different types of videos. So what drives me crazy, but they have one on their page, is called Speed Art. And have you seen a video where they don't talk, it's just music and they just do something? Those drive me crazy, but they have a channel for people that just like to look at somebody doing it and don't need to hear anything. Then they also have the masterclass, which is an in-depth dive into a specific topic where they walk you through everything. They have widget tutorials, new feature tutorial, and so it's just a playlist. So I think it's over 150 videos. So it's a great place to start and learn. And again, whenever a new feature comes out, they have a video for it. And we've had the presentation already. And next month, we're going to have Verdi Hines. He's the community leader at Elementor. He's going to come in and talk about generating recurring business income with Elementor. So it's always interesting to hear what the leaders think, or their tips on businesses. And I guess he owns a couple of plugin businesses, or a company built on making plugins. So it's going to be interesting to hear his insights on business. So with that, that is all I have for you today. I want to thank you for stopping in. Again, I try to do hands-on things. It's kind of difficult. I'd love to hear your feedback. Maybe I need to do a little bit more in terms of demonstration. I hope I gave you an overview of what these tools do, and what I hope to do as I move forward on this project. And we talked about in the last meetup, I'll show you what's next as we build towards the final project. I'll show you how the calendar tool is progressing, because actually someone from the events calendar reached out to me because they saw something on LinkedIn. So I'm hoping to get somebody from the actual company to come in and talk about the calendar tools too. So anyway, so what'd you think? Was it too basic, or what, did it give you enough things to think about, or what'd you think?
It was basic enough for me, the most basic person at this point. So thank you.
Awesome.
Now, are you going to publish your presentation just for those links you showed us on that last
Oh yeah.
slide?
So the video and the slide deck will be up on our Meetup page, and then I'm going to send out an email to our entire Meetup group with the links in it as well.
Thank you.
And I don't think it was too basic. I mean, I always love watching people work also, because it really helps me with my process. The agency guy that I work for, it's funny to watch him work because he's like super OG. He was building web pages in like the late 90s. And he's like, oh, I have no idea where this is at. And then he's hunting. I'm like, oh, I do that too, you know?
Yeah.
So I always really appreciate seeing how people work. It kind of helps with my imposter syndrome.
Yeah, and that's when I first saw folks on stage, I would always love watching somebody do it, because you would always find tips that you didn't know were there, or tricks. Like I love seeing people's shortcuts when they demonstrate a shortcut, because I love to add that to the arsenal. So, all right.
I know this sounds kind of weird. I'm glad you made that mistake on the title and that I think it was Teresa who caught it, because now everything just kind of comes in, so you don't have to think as much, but it made us go, oh, look, let's make sure that we've got a title or whatnot, rather than just taking it for granted that we've got it all filled in.
Yeah, and I would have found out when I showed my client, or or worse. So when I was checking things out. So, and that's one of the beauties of doing something live too. You have to sort of make sure you can correct things.
And when I was in boot camp, we used to do an exercise. Oh, now I can't remember what it's called. Oh, there goes my brain. Where we would do pair coding, where one person would speak and the other would type. So you were always checking each other. Because when I first learned how to code everything hand rolled, you miss one piece of punctuation, and I can't tell you how many times JavaScript made me cry, and I'm not a crier, and I'd be missing like one little thing. So
Awesome.
pair programming, that's what they called it.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say if you want to save the links that are in the chat for your own purposes, I would do so before we sign off. I could also make those available also, but let me save.
I always save as we go along. So, and Shannon, I may sound really like bad, but OG, I figure the O stands for old. What does G stand for?
Original gangster.
Ah, okay. I was totally wrong.
OG, original gangster.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's someone that's been around since the beginning, and they have all the stories. You know how a lot of old folks have all the wisdom, and they want to tell stories, but young people don't want to listen to them.
But yeah, this guy that I work for has a Webby. He never talks about it. And I sometimes have to sign non-disclosure agreements, and I can't talk about who we built the site for or anything, even when it's done. But he's literally been around since everything was in tables.
Yeah, we just did, there's an accessibility meetup on tables. And it's funny how those are coming back in Gutenberg, where they sort of are out of style and still are probably not as accessible as they should be. But all right, so that's it. Unless I'd love to hear what you think about, you can shoot me a message on the side, or if you feel like we need to do a more extensive dive into this, we could do that next month. I'm thinking of more topics. And again, as I build out the site, I want to, like, we have a store on Shopify. I'm hoping to switch that over to WooCommerce. So I hope to build that out. And, Elementor interfaces with WooCommerce. So if we do that, I'll share that with you. So this year, I'm just hoping to do a little bit more in terms of extending my skill set, and I'll share that with you. So.
And that's what I love about the WordPress community. Everyone just loves sharing. Like, I've never been in a community like this before, where people share their knowledge.
Well, to me, it's the perfect storm. Like Alicia in the last meeting, she loves to flex her developer muscles. She's just like, oh, you don't need a calendar tool. I can build it all myself. So people like, yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. She's that incredible. So you get that. So I think people want to present and share, but you also get that feedback or positive encouragement, or when you help somebody. That's what I'm sort of in it for. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and I don't want to build the calendar from scratch.
Oh, I don't want to do that either.
I'm like, nah. And she'll show me stuff, and she'll go so deep down, and I'm like, honey, I'm just going to use this. And she's like, you may as well use Wix. I'm like, whatever. That's what the client wants. They're not paying me to do like this great big huge thing. They wouldn't be able to handle it.
Yeah. And, we did, and I could show you real quick before we sign off. We did look at My Calendar, which is Joe Dolson's tool. But again, it was really, really, really basic, and it would take a lot of CSS magic to make something happen. Let me show that to you real quick. All right.
And that's a really good thing about volunteering too, is you get to meet all these like huge people. Like Joe Dolson, he organized the WordPress Accessibility Days. So gave me the opportunity to interact with him, which was really cool.
So can you see this? This is the My Calendar, and again, in comparing it to the other tools that we've seen, it's super basic, super stark. It has a different presentation method.
It looks like a decade old.
Exactly. But like I said, Alicia was like, oh, I can customize that. And so like I said, since it's accessible out of the box, this could be an accessible solution for you if you need it. But it's not really going to meet our needs in terms of visuals. So, all right. So yeah. So there you have it. We're going to meet next month. And like I said, we'll be doing more on both of our meetups. We're planning the next virtual WordCamp Santa Clarita. That's in the early stages. I need to get the application in. So we're thinking generally, and Sally, you've been on an organizing team. We do things a little different in Santa Clarita. And one of the reasons why I did it just like these meetups is I try to focus on the beginners. So our first year, we had a dedicated WooCommerce track. And I think this year we're going to do a dedicated accessibility track. So we're going to have a full day of accessibility in addition to the other topics. But our community, what Sumner's doing and what Alicia's doing, what Sally's doing, we want to really highlight that and focus on that. So again, I just need to get the process started, but that's sort of what's planned. And when we do that, and Sally, we talked about this, you're doing the beginners track. With Michael in Bakersfield, I usually do a beginner's track. So if you need to build a site from zero to finish, we'll probably do that in the lead up to our WordCamp as well. So those are some things that are coming up in 2021. I hope you have a great day. I look forward
Count me in to help you on your virtual WordCamp since I've done LA.
Oh, awesome. I've started typing up, you know what's going on with me personally, but I started typing up a personal message to you. So
Aw,
yeah.
thanks.
So
Okay, we'll talk later.
awesome.
And by the way, his mom made this scarf too. How awesome is that?
Yeah. Usually at in-person WordCamps, for those that haven't been, they give you a lot of swag. They give you a lot of swag, and the speakers aren't paid to speak. So as they usually get speakers gifts. And so I was trying to think of a way. I've never really collaborated with my mom. Like I'm a former graphic designer, artist type. And I was like, we need to collaborate on something because she's been fighting cancer. And I knew that there were two people that spoke at our event that were breast cancer survivors. One was a mental health survivor. So I said, as speaker gifts, and this was before we got canceled, so she did a really limited amount. I said, knit a scarf that has a pink stripe for breast cancer awareness, one for green stripe for mental health awareness, yellow for our organizers. And so she made those, and then I sent them to the folks that were involved on our organizing team and a few of the speakers. And then I met Sally since then, and I was like, you've been such a great asset to the community. As a new person, you need one too. So
I'm a breast cancer survivor too. So
Oh,
awesome. All right, so now you've heard too much about me and my background, but we'll see you next month. And Courtney,
Love
thank
you,
you for
Joe.
stopping by.
thank
love
you.
Great.
thanks, Joe.
Nice to meet you, Courtney. Good to see you, Shannon.
Nice to
Where
meet
are you joining us from, by the way?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in Covina, California.
Oh, okay. Because we've been getting people from all over today, so I wasn't sure.
That's the best part about these virtual is just people from all over.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yep, I love that I still get to be with my tribe out
I know.
I'm back in Brooklyn, and I don't know when I'll be back out west.
Yeah. She was on our
slipped right
organizing
in.
team last year for WordCamp Santa Clarita. And then
For
she
a
moved
minute.
back during the pandemic. She moved back to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
next time.
Thank you again, Joe.
Okay.
Talk
See you,
soon.
Sally.
Bye.
Hey, Sally, can you hang on for a minute?